I really hope that there's enough Anthem content at launch, but after playing the endgame content at an event in London and learning about it, I'm not convinced that this game will keep you busy for a very long time. At least not with the offering they have at launch. So let's discuss the endgame while I show some footage of it as well in this video. So if you enjoyed that, then a like of course would be super appreciated, and let's go. Let's start with what you can expect when you reach pilot level 30, the max level in Anthem. So you reach that of course by doing the main story missions, the free play with like world events or going inside dungeons inside the world. And you can also complete contracts for people in Fort Tarsus. And as you progress to level 30, you unlock special strongholds as well, and these are group activities that are scaled to 4 players. We already see one of them in the demo that is of course live right now. So if you want to play Anthem and watch this on Friday, February 1st, then you got the weekend to play the game. And bioware notes that there are 3 of these group sort of dungeons in total at the launch of Anthem. So the Tyrant Mine, again, that is in the demo with the spider at the end. We got the Temple of the Scar that they actually streamed at one point and we could play at the event as well. And there's another one that unlocks after you finish the Crypt Path, so the main story missions, and it's likely where we will face the final boss of the story. And I asked if this meant that we could only see like the end of the story with 3 other people, because again, the strongholds are scaled to 4 players, so you can do them solo, but that will be way harder than if you are with 3 other people. You can of course matchmake all the activities with random persons online, but still, all the story missions can be played solo as well, with enemies scaled towards 1 player. Well, I learned that there's actually a solo version of this final battle as well. So I'm not sure how this differs compared to the stronghold, where you likely face the same boss, but it's at least good to know that it's not gated behind a group activity. But yeah, 3 of these strongholds is totally not a lot at launch, especially since this is the most exciting and challenging content in Anthem, where regular missions have a pretty basic structure, where you have to hold a certain point, kill the enemies in the area, and then move on. In a stronghold, it was way more diverse and group focused as well. I really like the part in the Tyrant Mine stronghold where you for example have to collect echoes and then deliver them, and then suddenly there's a gatekeeper boss that you need to kill in order to unlock the other echoes that are like in cages, but that like open up after you killed this enemy. So then you all have to focus on this gatekeeper enemy to advance the mission. Or later on in the stronghold where you have to go into different caves with scorpions to grab something that makes you unable to fly. Do you go in alone or do you need a teammate like guarding you? I would expect the latter on a higher difficulty. It's fun and awesome gameplay that you see less in the regular expeditions. And of course the bosses are super exciting and huge compared to the other missions as well, and have multiple phases and require some different tactics. Like we saw the robot spider before, but in this Temple of Scar stronghold it now has a shield that you have to nuke down by destroying machines that power this force field. We were not allowed to play the 3rd stronghold, the Heart of Rage, although it looks to be in the area where you start the game, like the sort of volcano area. And we likely have to kill some Dominion soldiers there as well, as they are the main threat in the main story. So likely some fights against the Dominion Fury creature as well they showed in the Anthem 101 trailer, as that seems to be the toughest Dominion enemy. So yes, it will be fun to do these 30-minute long strongholds a couple of times for sure, but like I said, you already unlock them by going to level 30, so might have already done them a couple of times before reaching that max level. And of course, if you went crazy on the demo, then the Tyrant Mine will be super familiar when the full game launches. What is new on level 30 is the Grandmaster difficulty. This is harder than the hard difficulty that you can choose from the beginning. And also the rewards that you get from doing a higher difficulty will of course be better. During the event in London, I was able to do some content on this Grandmaster difficulty, and yes, the enemies have suddenly way more hit points, so take way longer to take out, like even the regular enemies, and they also deal more damage to you as well. It was noted that we did not have the best build for the Grandmaster difficulty yet. During the event we were boosted to level 30 with some blue, epic and a few masterwork items, but developers noted that you likely need some better gear for the Grandmaster content. And while playing this difficulty, epic loot was like really dropping left and right, so it might be a challenge to immediately try the Grandmaster difficulty when you reach level 30, but it seems to be a pretty nice way to boost your gear score up and then go to the second Grandmaster difficulty, and when you outlevel that, go to the Grandmaster difficulty 3. bioware already noted that they are willing to add even more of these Grandmaster tiers if people become too strong for Grandmaster 3. But yeah, this basically means that you will be replaying the same content over and over again, but on a higher difficulty to get better loot. So there will be those 3 strongholds, but there are also legendary contracts that have 3 objectives on the map, but that are different every time. So characters in Fort Tarsus give you these special missions for you to do in the world, so you can also matchmake them. And what the structure of these missions is that you go to location A, where you have to complete an objective like destroy the stockpiles by protecting an explosion that will then go off. And after you've done that 3 times, you need to kill all the remaining enemies. While during the objective, they will keep spawning over and over again. So if you killed the remaining enemies, you move on to the next location where you have to destroy a stockpile again, but this time I had to shoot it. So that was a little bit easier, finish that and kill the remaining enemies and then move on. For the final objective, we had to recover fragments to a relic, while a lot of enemies were breathing down our neck. This time not Scar, but Scorpions and also Dominion enemies. And that's the thing about these legendary contracts as well. The enemies and likely the objective as well are different every time you do one of these legendary contracts. So I think this means that you can do the legendary contract over and over again, but it will still be different because of the different enemy factions you will encounter during the different objectives. So we got the strongholds, the legendary contracts, but the free play should also be a big part of the endgame content, and it will change once you hit the max level. And this is where I think the most interesting things can happen, that the developers, when talking to me, already kind of teased as well. In free play, you can of course freely explore the sort of open world of Anthem, but the thing is that they want to evolve this over time. So you already got your world events that trigger once you or other players in that free play section. I think there are 4 in total. But yeah, these world events trigger once you are close, and they can be a boss or other objectives that you have to complete. So that will be always there in the free play section. But with them wanting to evolve this over time, I can totally see them like have recurring events in this part of the game. That every Tuesday there's something major going on. The Tuesday thing is of course me speculating, but I can totally see something happen like that. The bioware dev I talked to said that with like them evolving the world or having events return, you do not have to create new content while still making it exciting, because things that you might have missed the first time around suddenly are back into the game. They of course also teased Shaper Storms in the gameplay reveal at E3 2017. And I can totally see that out of nowhere this appears one day in the game and adds a cool new boss or different challenges. So the potential for the free play part is totally there. But during my trip to London where I played the endgame, I did not see any of that. So again, it's just potential, but it really depends on what bioware will do to evolve it and how often we will see new and recurring things happen. But yeah, what the Anthem Endgame is missing is something to work towards too, in terms of an epic event or boss encounter. bioware calls it aspirational content, that there's something that you want to achieve, something like a raid or maybe an epic boss fight that requires the best gear in the game. But yeah, Anthem will not have that at launch. I think in terms of boss fights, the 3 strongholds and some world events are really as big as it will get when the game comes out on February 22nd. And yes, that is kind of worrying. You would have hoped that they already had something like that in place, since many similar games that lacked a raid or big endgame activity lost a lot of players a few weeks after launch. The first Division had a similar approach, where you replayed the same missions over and over again without any like real big endgame activity. The Division 2 aims to change that, because the Division 1 fell flat after launch. The first Destiny had 6 strikes at launch, if I remember correctly, and you can kind of compare these strikes to strongholds. Then Destiny also has PvP. Not to say that I think Anthem should have PvP, but that does add a lot of extra playtime. It's basically endless content. And the first Destiny also had a raid that opened less than a week after launch. And people dismissed that game for not having enough content after a few weeks. So it's hard to not foresee the same happen for Anthem in my opinion. BioWare talks about the infinite chase for loot, and it's true that there's a lot to collect in this game with many different possible playstyles, and I look forward to figuring out a cool build from my favorite javelin. Gear that you can collect have different inscriptions that add another layer to the grind, because if you find the item you want, then it might not have the best perks that you want, so you can keep looking for the perfect role. But if this looking is playing the same content over and over again, killing the same enemies over and over again without any goal, without something to work towards to, then it can get old pretty fast. And I know that that's the point of these types of games, but then you also see way more variety in content, way more options to grind for the best gear, and I feel that Anthem's content in the long term will all pretty much feel the same. The longevity of this game will really depend on the post-launch content support. How quickly is BioWare able to add new strongholds that, to be honest, should have been at launch, like 5 minimum in my opinion. How fast are they able to add new bosses or even a raid to the game to keep players invested? Because I think that people will blast through the content really fast, as always happens with these types of games, and I'm not sure if Anthem will have the variety of content to keep players entertained. Again, the live service post-launch content part will be super important for Anthem. Also good to note is that you of course have your daily, weekly and monthly challenges that you can do for likely coins to unlock cosmetics. We got the alliance system, because yes, at the end of a mission on level 30 you still get XP, although you cannot reach a higher level than 30. So that XP then goes into the alliance system that you are in with people that are also playing Anthem on your friend list and people you matchmade with. And that XP will be converted at the end of the week to a reward, so likely those coins as well. So curious to see how this system will play out, because it does mean that if you don't play for a few days but your friends do, then you still have some rewards when you log back in. And yes, apart from the loot that makes your character better, trying to unlock awesome gear to make your character look cool will also be something to chase in Anthem for sure. BioWare also mentioned that there are challenges like kill enemies a certain way, use different abilities as well, that you can also chase on the max level. I really think that the journey to the max level, learning more about the world by talking to the characters in Fort Tarsus, and just the overall story will be cool to experience for sure, but I'm not sure if the loot grind will be a lot of fun for weeks without any big things to work towards to, at least at launch. Again, the post-launch content and release schedule will really be key to keep players engaged. At the time of this recording, BioWare did not talk about their post-launch plans yet. Let's hope they at least shine some light on it before release. When they do, I will of course let you know here on the channel, and I will also have tips and tricks up and other content you come to expect from me when we get closer to release and of course around launch as well. So totally subscribe to stay up to date on more Anthem coverage, like this video to support channel, check out my recent video on the character customization part of the game and some cool armors I could unlock, and I will speak to you next time. Goodbye.